Endless Celts Podcast. I do want to make an apology first of all. We weren't live on Friday. A lot of people had commitments. I had a birthday, by the way, so yeah, there we go. Everyone was busy in that, but we're back again Monday. I'm delighted to be joined by Franny and Anthony. How are you both?
All good, Stephen. All good. It feels like a wee while, just simply because of commitments with others and stuff in myself that I've not been on, but I'm buzzing to be back on talking about Celtic.
And yourself, Anthony?
Aye, all good, mate. All good. Feel like it's been a wee while since I've been on. Just we've been away on holiday and stuff like that. And like you say, I was unavailable on Friday as well with the wee boys' fundraiser for his football team. But we were both at the game on Saturday, so looking forward to talking about it tonight. And aye, great to be back.
100%, and we're back to our normal schedule, so we'll be back again Friday as well.
You just never got the memo, Stephen, on what top to wear, eh?
Well, I mean, these are twinning it out. Like, I think everyone's coming around to this home tap now. It looks smashing, to be fair. Yeah, after all the fucking razzmatazz about it when it first came out, people cracking up, people are just banning it left, right, and centre. But the comments are on fire already. Michael Ross was in early on, but I do want to come to the Super Six. This will be updating that at the moment, and if it comes up on the screen. So Kevin Gallagher's first, Niall Thomas second, Jamie Latimer third, Alistair Jack fourth, Anthony Dunn, you're creeping up, big man. Fifth, sixth is Kieran Gillihooley, seventh, Bethany Brennan, eighth, Jamie McElduff, ninth, Ewan Cheshire, and 10th, James Bowie. So it's looking pretty tasty there, Franny. You on that? No, you're not on that, buddy. That's a bit of a strange one.
I think I'm 13th.
That's quite embarrassing for you, isn't that? No?
No.
Just a wee bit embarrassing.
No sprint, son. Some marathon, no sprint.
No, very true. But I mean, Anthony, we'll start with yourself, buddy. You were at the game with your son. Mm-hmm. Brief summary. How was it?
Well, for the start, it was an expensive day out because we've not got just got this one, but obviously we were talking about off air. They were doing I think they're selling whatever they've got left of the anniversary kit as well. So that was another expensive trip to the superstore, Stephen. But no, in terms of on the park, I thought we were. But just things are starting to come together a lot more now. Although it was 0-0 at half time, I have to say I thought there was a lot of people, still having like the usual moans and groans online at half time. I have to say I thought we were playing okay. First half we obviously had the offside goal, but there was 2 or 3 other chances in that first half as well that had they went in, we could easily have been like we were in the opening game of the season, 2 or 3 goals up. By half time, but I have to say, largely the crowd stayed with the team. There wasn't that kind of big sort of size of frustration at half time. It was just kind of like, well, we're doing everything right, just need to do it maybe a little bit quicker, and that very much happened. Once the penalty went in, it was pretty much one way traffic for there. But it's just great to get back in amongst the goals. We'll keep them on that good bit of form, obviously after the brilliant one at Ibrox, and I would probably say as much as it's good to see some of the new arrivals getting more game time, just the sight of Rio Hatate coming back was absolutely brilliant. And I just think he just totally everything just moved up a gear once he came on in the second half. He just shows he's still night and day ahead of everybody else at the moment, and hopefully once he's back up to full fitness and hopefully tied down in a long-term contract, we'll be laughing. But good day at the office all round.
Maybe it was a blessing that Hatate got injured for that time period to get over the transfer window and we keep him on our books. I mean, to be fair, Franny, I think Anthony summed it up well there. The crowd, Rodgers kind of alluded to the fact there that he stayed with them at half time. There was no booing, there was no kind of anxious among the support, although you do feel it. They didn't show it, which was fair enough. But in regards to yourself, it was a sellout. I mean, we're unbeaten in the league. I think we're top by 2 points now. We're 4 points clear of our nearest rivals, obviously the Derby. I think it's domestically, apart from the Cup, we've been flawless, really. Like, we're unbeaten in the league, we're doing the job, and we're getting the games won at the end of the day.
Well, that's it, Stephen. Like, early doors, obviously, Rodgers is a top manager, and like, I think we all expected that. I'm sort of fit to just kick on for where Ange left and maybe play just the same style of football, because it's one of them. Like, why change what's not necessarily broken? You're off the back of a treble. I appreciate a couple of 2 or 3 key players have left, but in the main, the bulk of the squad's there. You've actually replaced these guys and stuff. So I think it was just
Michael Ross would disagree. He's going to be flying tonight. Like,
I know, But so with that, it's you maybe expect to start the season you just to be flying, running a wee bit, not adrenaline, but the buzzy Rodgers coming in, new season and whatnot and things. But it's been a bit of a slow start, but I think that's maybe just the players adapting to Rodgers' style. I've said that before. It was a very unique way we were playing for 2 years. That very fast-paced football where Rodgers is fast football, but it's more methodical. I think it is a possession-based and stuff, and to draw teams out and create the space to then start popping it about fast and things like that. So it's been, I think it's been frustrating for fans to kind of see the slower football, and I think that maybe is creeping into the fan base. And I think Rodgers is kind of sort of what's the term? He's a culprit his own success in a way that we thought maybe, well, he's going to be sort of you would see all the fast football be blowing teams away, but it's just football's not like that. And now we're just kind of seeing that maybe Rodgers is held just to a higher sort of a standard and things. So I think the first half, like Anthony said, it was a similar, wasn't it really? Well, it was similar to the St Johnstone game because we did make chances, but Maeda's chances is really unlucky with it. He actually hits it really well and stuff, and then his offside goal was offside, but it's a great finish for it at the end of the day. Then Joe Hart has to make a great save as well. But then second half, you get the goal early on for the penalty spot. Then it was just never really looked back. Dundee did have a chance. I think it was at 1-0. I can't remember his name. He picked up and you see he's trying to just kind of use. I think it was. Skill,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And he gets it wrong and stuff. So if that goes in, it maybe it's a different game because I think that was pretty soon after we scored. But that was the only real chance I think Dundee actually had. But it was a very comfortable afternoon. And like Anthony says, Hatate back is a massive difference. It's no a slant and tumble, but we're so much better in the middle of the park with Hatate in it. It's just quicker. I think we're a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's the main issue on that front. Hatate brings the dynamism, the kind of flexibility to get forward. I mean, Rodgers said that today in his press conference about he's looking for more speed in the midfield again, and Hatate brings that, Anthony. But to come on to the first goal, you spoke about Turnbull. He won the penalty kick, and he put it away. Was it a penalty?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but funnily enough, I sat down at that side, and in real time, I thought, it looked in, but I just wasn't, you're never 100% sure if he's fallen into the box or if he was, he did have some of his body in it. And you could see a few of the players straight away saying, look, you're going to have to go and look at that. That looks like a penalty, like that it was in the box. And there definitely was a relaxed sense around us that it was going to be awarded. And certainly if we were initially put the vanishing spray down on the pitch, it was like, well, it certainly wasn't that far out, put it that way. And then obviously Bars looked at it, and that's what it's there for. It's a foul. He thought it was outside the box. It was in the box. And as much as there's been a lot of rule changes last time I checked, there's a foul in the box. It's a penalty kick. So penalty all day for me, mate. And David Turnbull took it well, to be fair to him. And as Franny says, that Dundee they responded a wee bit after that, but they kind of did fizzle out after that, and then we really took control of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Turnbull put it away fantastically well, and I've seen people trying to compare the penalty to the foul that was given against Dessers in the Derby game. The whole kick in the back of the kick. They would clutch at anything, wouldn't they? Just to say they're right. I mean, it was proved again that they're wrong. But anyway, I mean, another goal was Kyogo. His header was fantastic, and also Cal McGregor picking out a wonderful pass, by the way. And I didn't think personally McGregor had the best of games. For me, he didn't look really up to it. He was a wee bit of the speed was going, and obviously he was playing a bit of week and stuff for Scotland, so you have to factor that in. But we always spoke about it last season, and even Postecoglou and Rodgers to a degree, we were never finding Kyogo when he was making them runs, time in, time out. I mean, he was doing it all the time. He was wasting it, and Cal McGregor's finding that now. And I mean, to be fair, that's a great weapon to have. And he was onside, perfectly timed, and bang! I think someone said he jumped like a salmon. It was a great goal all round. Great bit of team play as well.
Well, it was, if you remember, like the Dundee, there was a kind of 50-50 in the Dundee boy kind of laying the ground looking for a free kick, never getting it. But I think he was expecting, I'll just lie here and they'll kick the ball out. But fair play to Celtic. They continue to kind of pass it about. And like you said, McGregor's pass, it's absolutely, but you just see him he picks his head up and sees Kyle go. I was expecting an offside flag, I'll be honest. He looked a mile offside. And it's no, when you actually see it, at first I was like, well, maybe it's his pace and it's that, but it's obviously his pace is playing a factor, but it's his movement is absolutely ridiculous for the goal. It's so good, and I think that's why, I mean, his pace obviously comes out, but his movement more than his pace, I think, makes him look a mile offside at times. And it was an absolute great goal, great header, great ball in. It was just like we said, I know Dundee had a wee chance, but that second goal it kills the tie for me, and just puts to bed any, not that there was any doubts, but it just puts to bed any doubts. And it was a really, really nice goal all round.
Yeah, I think as well, Anthony, you look at it from McGregor's point of view, if we're going to find them passes, do I mean, that's a good thing. Teams maybe will start to think twice about sitting deep all the time. If Kyogo's breaking the lines, he's finding that ball over the top. Obviously, you need to time them runs to perfection, which he's doing at the minute. And for Kyogo, I mean, well, I seen the stat today, 6 goals and assists in 5 appearances since the start of the season. I think that's fantastic. Like,
he's in a world he's on at the moment, mate. I just love watching him play football. I just think he's absolutely excellent. As Franny says, he's off the ball movement, he's timing, everything. Obviously, he's putting the ball in the back of the net as well, which is obviously the most important thing for a player in his position. He's doing it in the big games, especially as well. You know, you look at Pataudry after we just conceded an equaliser. 2 minutes later, we're back in front. Obviously, had a very similar goal at Ibrox, which proved to be the winning game. And that's the thing. Guys that play up front for Celtic have got to do it, pretty much week in, week out, and that's what the wee man's doing at the minute. But he's an absolute joy to watch, and as he says, he's timing his timing and the header itself were both first class.
Aye, 100%. And I put this in on purpose right now. This is probably the comments are going to explode here. Obviously, we've seen Celtic's financial results come out. I think it was around 6 o'clock this evening. Franny, come to you first here. One of our wee subtopics is, should we have signed a first striker? Obviously, Kyogo has that ongoing shoulder injury. It looked like he had to go into the dressing room to get a pop back into place. He's also confirmed today that he's fit and available for the Feyenoord game, which is fantastic. But it's well known that he's going to get an operation at some time during the season. Now, I just want to read out the results of these finances. So the group revenue increased by 35.8% to 119 million compared to 88.2 million the year previously. Operating expenses, including labour, increased by 4% to 95.4 million, up on 91.7 the previous season. Gain on sale player registrations, 14.4 million. Well, a wee bit of a drop to 29 million the year before. Acquisition of player registrations of 13 million pounds compared to 38.4 million the year before that. Again, a wee bit down. And profit, this is the big one. Profit before taxation of 40.7 million. A huge jump from 6.1 million the year before. And also year-end cash net of bank borrowings of 72.3 million, up on 30.2 million on the year before. Now, again, it's a topic that everyone's still talking about. Everyone can see we have money coming out of our ears, Franny. Why do you think we didn't sign that first striker? Or do we need that first striker?
I think we do need that first striker, first and foremost. I do. But at the same time, I don't want to... It maybe isn't the right thing to say, because if you want to be a big club, it shouldn't really... It's up to the players that are there to step up to the plate. But I do see something and know that I think he could be a really special player. He's got a wee maverick sort of a touch about him. I think it kind of lets him down at times, where he maybe just tries to be too clever, too fancy and stuff. But I do think there's a player I know. So I want us to bring something in, but at the same time, I don't want us to... It's that catch-22. I don't want it to stunt O's progression in the team. But then that, I suppose, if you bring somebody in, that's on O to then step up to the mark. I mean, in an ideal world, I think we spoke about in the group chat, but obviously when the window is open at some point, a Mikel Antonio would have been perfect. Him or that kind of outfit. When you actually see it, there was chat to him apparently coming, and
That was
it was very minimum chatting. Then you see, I think he's played nearly every game for West Ham, so there was obviously nothing in that story at all. But I think you really, if for me, the first striker in an ideal world would have to be somebody of Michael Antonio's age, like that 33 age, that knows
experience.
Experience, different from what you've got. That, like, I mean, Giakoumakis would have been brilliant. Let's be honest, that's the beater of the division. We had somebody Giakoumakis that would have played that role brilliant. But that type of guy that knows his place in the team and stuff, can help the younger guys around. Obviously, like guys like Cole pass on some of his experience. But maybe it's not to say that we never tried, Stephen. I know me and you, I'm kind of in your camp. It was spend, but it's we don't know. They could have tried. For all we know, they could have tried. The figures will say they didn't, but because we didn't know the dealings of transfers. So I think we've got to kind of be a wee bit pragmatic and go, they probably did try. I mean, if we, as a podcast, as folk watching football, just Joe blogs off the street, can see that if we, not just us as three, but quite a lot of folk thought we need a new goalkeeper, not necessarily desperate emergency ones, personally myself, a goalkeeper, a left back and a striker. Sure as hell, Brendan Rodgers is thinking that too. Then at the end of the day, he's a top manager. If we're thinking that, he'll be thinking that as well. And it's not to say that we didn't try and sign these boys. We didn't know, and it maybe is just like we've always said. Especially me and you, Stephen, we were very vocal in the group chat anyway, saying that just go and like spend a bit of money on a guy. Go and spend that 7, 8, 9 million if that's what it costs. Go and spend it. Again, they maybe did. They maybe did try and go to it, and the guys went, "Nah, I didn't fancy it." Or maybe some boy went to the EPL where there's got to get decent money there, like wages wise. We simply can't compete with the wages because the finances, they can pay guys 80 grand a week. Like, I don't know if you've got to bring it up, but just in case you didn't, like the guy like Brighton, Ansu Fati is on 180 grand a week at Barcelona, and Brighton can take him on loan and pay about 80% of his wages. Celtic can't compete with that. No chance. Absolutely no chance we're competing with that type of wages. Finances, transfer fees, I think we could probably pay it, but the problem is wages then coming out. Whether folk might hark back to when Larson that was in, you were maybe paying 50, 55 grand. But the Premiership were probably paying that type of wage as well. And the problem is the Premiership aren't they paying that type of wage anymore. Yeah. Ben Doak is apparently on like 12 grand a week at 17-year-old. And we had guys saying, why did we let Ben Doak go? Because we just can't be paying 16-year-old laddies 12 grand a week. And I know a focal point to the finances being there. It doesn't timing. The timing of it, I think, I mean, there would have never been a great time to bring it out, because especially when it's Peter Law that said it, because everybody's got their reservations.
The chairman of the board.
And it's the fact that like, they should have just let anybody else say that statement. Let's be honest, that's just bad PR letting Peter Law say that statement. Because everybody know, like, everybody's
non-executive chairman.
That's not their enemy.
Chairman.
That's not their enemy. Everybody's got their opinion on Peter Law, and for him to sit and boast about the numbers, it's just got to heighten that for folk. And it's not to say that we won't spend it. And like you said, obviously a big hike in profit. We didn't have the Champions League money last year. We've got it this year. That's going to be a big hike in profit.
Also, as well,
25 million coming for Jota, but didn't came on getting that. That's money. Starfelt, I mean, I know you break even, but still 5 million for a guy that you probably weren't planning on selling. So there was money made on guys that we didn't know or weren't planning on selling. So it's one of the ones where I'm sitting saying I wanted us to go that extra mile in the transfer market. I don't know if we tried to or not. I'll never know. These figures on the outside will make it look like, well, there's no excuses for not doing it. But really, when it comes to wages, who you're competing against, Matt, like, you get fans that moan, for example, like Palmer. Why did it take so long to sign Palmer? But maybe and then what's this?
I think it's a brilliant point. The figures show how massive the club we are. Imagine what we could do if we were in a Super League. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
Like I said it weeks ago, Celtic are a big club geographically, but that's it. That's it, right? Well, we're a big club in name, but no geographically. We're stuck in the SPL. I don't like to slate it because I think we have got a great product, but I think we don't sell it properly. I'm not saying we're ever going to achieve what the APL teams achieve when it comes to finances, but the figures, Stephen, it doesn't help when you're trying to say in the eve of the Champions League, and it shows that you've only spent 13 million to try and gear up for the Champions League. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't mean we didn't try at the end of the day. We'll never know. We'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll never know. I think what I can see in the comments again, there's a lot of, I knew this would cause hate 100% because the feeling that I felt, Anthony, when Kyogo went off,
see that
looked
as well,
like an injury.
See Celtic in a bigger budget and finance, we've got about fucking 36 players. Got a big wage bill.
We'll park that for now. I'll come on to the Feyenoord a bit later on in the podcast, but Anthony, the feeling I got when Kyogo went off was like, fuck, who's next? I like Go. I agree with Franny. I think he will be a player in time, so to speak, obviously with more training, getting used to the system, different managers and successive seasons. What I'm looking at here, I mean, Stephen Ray said earlier on, forget about the EPL, we're not competing with them. It's Belgium, Netherlands, Norway, all them types of nations. I totally agree with that, by the way. Don't understand why we can't do it. The finances back it up. But then the wages, so you have to take that into consideration. Sean the Mac, the comment we brought up, said about if we were in a Super League, our finances would be up there with the best, basically. Now, I look at this for a Scottish club. It's record-breaking, 40.2 million pre-tax profit, 72 million in the bank. And I don't think that includes the Jota fee or the Starfelt fees. I don't know. I need to look at that.
Don't know.
But then again, Peter Lawwell's doing his wee statement, basically saying that we're kind of self-sufficient. We're saving the money for cash reserves in case we don't get in the Champions League, blah, blah, blah. Really day fund. Let's call it that. But overall net spend, I think £13 million for the summer window just gone. We all knew that the issues with the squad, I think even more so, like I said there, when Q going off, we're going, fuck. If O gets injured, we're basically down to bare bones. I know Maeda can play in there and vice versa, whatever. But how do you feel about the finances? And do you think we should have maybe tried a bit harder to get more signings in the door?
Well, Stephen, is there any chance you could bring the graphic back up?
Yes, I will. Yeah. No problem. You carry on talking while I get up them.
It's just obviously the fact. Listen, there's no doubt the numbers are staggering, really. Although they'd probably be quite similar to other clubs of our size across the continent. It's profit before taxation, a £40 million. That's a standard transfer fee for certain clubs now. For such as the madness of European, certain leagues and the monies that they can spend. But it's the group revenue increased to 119 million. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm not sure that in terms of its acquisition of players registration, I don't know if does that go up to June. So in terms of does all of the players signed from July onwards, will they be in the next one? I'm not quite sure how it all works, but that second one is one of the big things as well. Operating expenses increased to nearly £100 million. That was the one I was looking for. Sorry, but you can take it back off now if you want. I just wanted to see that. We do make a lot of money. There's no, especially for a Scottish club that doesn't have the kind of TV deal that other clubs have down south. But because we have so much of our stuff in-house, we run our own, a lot of the merchandise and stuff with the scouting and data stuff is huge. We've just announced that we're going to be spending quite a significant sum of money on the Barrafield redevelopment, and I think there's some stuff going on at Lennoxtown as well. So all of these things have to be getting factored in. I always feel like I'm defending the board these days, which I don't necessarily want to be able to do, because I've got my own, there's a lot of things I don't agree with them with as well. So I think it'll probably be the set. I think I might be wrong, but the way that it comes, I think a lot of the players that we've signed in the summer, I don't think they come into like the January or February announcement. I think they've always worked like 6 months in arrears. Somebody maybe more financially sound might be able to tell me that. Hence why the Jota money and the Starfelt money isn't in these figures either, like you say. Listen, in terms of the window itself, I'm kind of pretty much in the same agreement with Franny. And in terms of what Peter Lawwell said, there was quite a stark thing, and maybe people will just say it's just more empty words, but he did say something along the lines of, the self-sufficient, it means we're on a good financial footing sort of thing. But then he does say, and he very much separates the two type of player that we're always in the market for. He says we recognise the difference between players that we want to bring in for relatively modest fee and sell on big, your Jotas and, Dembele's, they kind of players. But also the players that have got to come in and make an impact straight away. Now, there's obviously debate to be had whether we've done that this summer. I think we've kind of been hampered to the point of a lot of the players that we have signed haven't had a run in the team, not through any necessary fault of their own. You look at Tillio, we don't know if he's first team ready yet, but by all accounts, when he was signed, there was a lot of fanfare around him saying he's going to, he's your replacement for Jota straight away, and he's picked up an injury. Obviously, Navroki has come in, essentially Starfelt's replacement. He's been injured. And obviously, I think Kwon was the other player in the middle of the park. And I would accept that he's probably the one that's not, like we would say, for what we've seen so far, he hasn't settled. Holmes, when he's come in, has looked decent in flashes as well. I think what a lot of fans were probably looking for is that absolute bona fide grade A, he's in the team, and that's it.
What do you think about that? Because I think that the comments are making great points here. Michael Ross, quite simply, we are underachieving, and we all know it.
Well, what would Michael's, of course,
Europe? I'm guessing it means Europe, because obviously we won the treble last year, so we've achieved everything domestically. And I think for me, Anthony, as well. Sorry to cut you off there, but I'll obviously come back to you. The financial results.
Absolutely fine, mate. I would say. Again, we've spoke about the Champions League at length, and I know we'll be coming on to it again soon, because obviously it's the big one kicks off tomorrow night. You look at Europe last season, and I look at it in a lot of sense with a campaign that we had under Neil Lennon. I think we had Ajax in the group that year, and I think it was AC Milan, and I think it was one of the many years with Barcelona, and it was a group where we played well and played really well throughout the course. I think there was a game in the San Siro where we were actually by far and away the better team against AC Milan. Didn't take our chances, and as we've said time and time again, at this level, you'll always get punished for not doing so. I think, apart from the dead rubber in the Bernabeu, by which point the group had got away from us, I think we more than competed in the Champions League, given the resources we have and the teams that we were going up against. I think people, when they see names like Leipzig getting out, because it's not the kind of the old money kind of sexy name of like an AC Milan or a Real Madrid or something like that, there's almost like a sense that straight away we should be beating this mob. And I think sometimes we forget just how much that we, in terms of the league that these teams play in, week in, week out, the opposition that they face week in, week out is of a far higher standard. But you look at that game against Real Madrid, for 60 minutes, we more than matched them. And you just, if McGregor's shot goes in or Maeda's shot goes in, gives the crowd a lift, and they can, maybe kick on for that. But Real Madrid's quality showed in the end.
But is that not all ifs, buts, and maybes?
Yeah, but it is, but that's what football comes down to.
But if that happens again this year, will we be saying the exact same thing next year? I get what people say in the chat. I'm not pushing you, by the way. I'm just saying, in terms of the finances, me and Franny, we do your heads in by saying sign this guy. And some of it is.
I'd love nothing more than for Celtic to go out and spend big and be able to sign this, that, and this player and that player and pay him however many grand a week and whatnot. But the reality is the players that are off that would require a big financial outlay just to get them in, and then the weekly wage that they would then be picking up. Even if you bought 2 or 3 of these guys, let's just say for instance we had bought 2 or 3 players at about 11, 12 million this year, right? Are we seriously saying that we would, if we'd signed 3 of those players, we'd be going into any Champions League game against a pot 1 or a pot 2 side and being like, right, let's do it? One of the great things, we didn't spend in comparative to what the big teams did in some of our more kind of the better years that we've had in Europe. It's just been that we've taken our chances when they've came along, we've punched above our weight and came off the better side of it on the result. I mean, we didn't spend more than Juventus in 2001, but there was a night where we took the chances that came our way and we got a bit of luck on as well. Now, of course, a lot of folks say you'll make your own luck as well, and that's absolutely fair. I think when you actually look at our European campaigns, one by one, they average out about the same as what most other European teams with the budgets we have in the league we play in. It's much as we regularly qualify for the Europa League group stage, where I think we definitely both agree on. I think there's maybe, you look back, I always think of the Copenhagen year, the year we actually topped the group with 2 games to spare. That was a game that did get away for us, Stephen. But when you actually look at it, we're a top 4 side in the Champions League. And I think a couple of the last years that we've been in it, we've finished 3rd. And when you look at the teams in pot 1 and 2, that's largely where we are in the food chain, whether we like it or not. And in the Europa League, I say definitely in the knockout phase, I think we've got to improve on that. But I mean, I can't remember the last time we failed to get out a Europa League group. So when you look at it in that term, it's not as bad. But I appreciate we always want to do better. Of course, that goes without saying.
The issue that the people have is the fact that every new manager comes in, want to make an imprint in Europe, want to do better in Europe, want to do this. Rodgers was asked today what success would be in Europe after Christmas. So he's confident that we'll do it. We'll come on again, we'll come back to the European chat shortly. I want to kind of bring it back, if we can, Franny, to the league game. That was a side tangent that I knew would get everyone kind of jumping in, and it did. Everyone's comments is welcome, different opinions. We all have different opinions. But Franny, I mean, someone who came in to the game on the right-hand side to replace Abada was Yang. Yeah, I thought he did well. I think for me that maybe overdoes it sometimes in terms of taking his player on and not releasing the ball quick enough, or maybe not linking up the play as he should. But early signs are encouraging. And we talked about this before. We need players who can eliminate the fullback. We've got runners. We've got Abada can do that. Maeda can do that. But having the likes of a dribbler who could take maybe 1 or 2 on and whip a ball into the box or cut it back for a player to score. That's what we were lacking in terms of breaking teams down with the low block. But Yang coming in for that game, did he impress you the time he was on the pitch?
He's probably the one. I mean, he's been given the more game time, probably more due to his position and stuff, and the exit of Jota, and now obviously the injuries have helped him get more game time than maybe not saying maybe he expected, but maybe more than what we expected, I suppose. And he has certainly impressed, but I totally agree. It does maybe 1 too many step overs at times, but I can remember as certainly Marcelo was saying that about Jota when he first came in, that he does 1 too many step overs, and look how that turned out. He turned out all right. So it's maybe just one of them. He just needs to just get a good run of games, get used to the players, get used to how they want to. There you go. PSG spent that and didn't win the Champions League. I know I like winning the money, but that's the way we are. It's the world you live in. But Yang has certainly impressed me. I like he's kind of tall and athletic as well, which I think might help us in Europe. Might help us in Europe and stuff like that. He looks a strong boy and stuff, and he looks like he can play on the right and the left hand side, which is always handy. It gives you that flexibility and stuff, even if he maybe starts predominantly on the right and it's not really working for him. Maeda looks like he's a stick on again this season for left midfield, depending, obviously it's early doors for Palma, we just don't know about him yet. But Maeda seems I say equally as comfortable on the right. I don't think I don't know how Maeda ever looks comfortable when he's playing football, but he's such a good player, and just so key, I think, at times. But they two, if it is good, obviously Yang, I think will get a good run in teams because of Abada's injury. I think he'll be, depending on how Tilio turns up in training. But I think Yang now it's his jersey to lose, and like I say, because him and Maeda can both swap wings, it's a good option to have just in case it's maybe just not working out for you. You can go, right, we'll go and just swap on wings and get him running at somebody else to try and get his confidence. But somebody that's certainly impressed me and stuff, and he seems a confident enough boy. He just needs to, I think he just needs to stop trying to impress, if you like, Stephen, because I do agree.
Yeah.
I think it's 1-2 mini step overs at times, not all the time, but sometimes you're like, he maybe didn't need that one. But he's a young laddie. We see it all the time with wingers and stuff. They're certainly, they play off confidence and stuff and play off form. It's just getting that balance, but it's not something I'm too overly concerned. He's one I was like going by the YouTube clips, it was the one that kind of excited me early doors and stuff, but I'm not saying he's lived up to its early doors, but at the same time, he's looked a good wee sign. Speaking of the business model, it looks like he fits that perfect. Because he looks like somebody will not try to sell it, not try to get rid of the boy, but it looks like if he performs, continues sort of in his trajectory, somebody will make decent money on.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it reminds me of the time, Anthony, remember Klinsmann went to Rugby Park to watch O, and he just tried so hard and hard and hard, and nothing was coming off. It looked like he had a really bad performance. But in terms of Yang himself, I think, Anthony, like Franny said, he's very off the cuff. You don't really know what you're getting. He likes taking players on and takes spaces. He's got a wee burst of pace. He's physical, which is good. And I think going in time, not saying he's going to replace Jada, but he's coming from the K League. He was the Young Player of the Year. He made his debut for South Korea during the international break. So Klinsmann obviously thinks really highly of him. Are you excited to see more of him potentially in the coming games here?
Absolutely, yeah. Whether he starts in the European games is still to be seen, but definitely, I mean, he started on Saturday. I mean, I wasn't at the St Johnstone game. That was the weekend I was away. But I've heard a lot of. He was one of the, shining lights in that game for what I heard, and he played well in spells on Saturday as well. I think probably the best term to describe him would be a bit raw at the minute. Like you say, that he's beat a guy, but then he's maybe got that idea that he wants to beat him 2 or 3 times. Whereas I'm sure Brendan will coach that out of him and just beat him once and get the ball in. That's all you need to do. I'm not in any way describing about to compare him to this man, but I'm just saying it's similar to when obviously when Ronaldo originally joined United for Sporting Lisbon. He was a bag of tricks, had all the natural skill in the world, but he was prone to doing the step over 2 or 3 times when he'd already had the boy beat. But naturally, as he matured, that grew out of him. Like I say, I'm not in any way. Please don't have it on the Endless Celts. Yang is the new Ronaldo, but you know what a guy's
we'll get that clipped up. We'll get that clipped
that's it. There'll be all kind of crazy drugs as Tony on the night.
Were you surprised about Palma's size when he came on? I've seen a lot of people say that. Yeah. Palma looked like an absolute unit. He looked like a tank.
That's it. I mean, he looked like he'd been when he signed. The photos, when people are getting their photograph taken, sometimes it can be a bit deceiving how tall or how small they actually are. But my God, man, he looked like he'd been through the Todd Cantwell Instagram filter when he signed. Remember when they made him look like Thor, and the guy looks like he needs ironed. But oh my God, this boy's a unit, an absolute unit. And looked the part when he came on. I know that sounds a bit stupid, but he just looks the part when he came on, and just took proper physical specimen. But look, a couple of good touches in that as well. Obviously, can sometimes be hard when I think he came on when it was maybe 1-0, 2-0, or maybe it was just before the goal. I can't quite remember. But obviously, they're huffing and puffing and just like they're trying to get into the game. But when he did, he looked the part, and I do think, as I say, the more games he gets, I think he could be a real find. We've obviously spent, but I think was he our biggest outlay this summer? Was about 4.5 million.
4 million, yeah, possibly.
He looks like he's going to be worth every penny once he gets right up to match fitness and gets a run of games. I dare say I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like we could have a very good number 7.
Uh-huh.
Here's hoping. And Franny, I mean, to be fair, a lot of people in the comments saying the same thing, surprised by his size like Anthony. That's the first thing I noticed straight away. He looked like that. No, your man Hulk, who plays as a Brazil. He's like similar, just tanked up and ready to go on the pitch, ready for action. And like Anthony, I thought when he came on, he didn't do anything amazing, but he didn't give the ball away. He was very composed when he had the ball. He was jostling with the fullback. He was winning his duels, and he looked quite decent. And it brings me on to my next question. Going into tomorrow night against Feyenoord, who would you give the nod to, Palma or Yang? Yang, straight off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular reason?
Just because of what I've seen. I can only simply base it off what I've seen now, and it looks more like Palma predominantly prefers to play off the left, and Maeda, I think, although Greg Taylor looked better, probably had his best game at the weekend there. Well, he's got a good haircut in that, so it must take him a while to do that hair. So he will be long in the shower. I think, as I say, Taylor had probably his best game of the season on Sunday. I don't know if Brendan Rodgers has suddenly just went, right, we're playing you as the inverted fullback. It's the best I've got. I've got Johnson back. I can accommodate you now being the inverted wing back. Or Greg Taylor just went, I'm playing shite, so I'm going to play the way I can how to play good, and I'm going to play this inverted wing back role and see what happens. So if Taylor's got to play the inverted wing back where he seems to perform a lot better and is a lot more confident, looks a lot more comfortable, I think you need Maeda out on the left. And simply because of that, due to the fact that Palma came on and played on the left at the weekend, all the sort of his YouTube clips, I'm not saying he can't play in the right or anywhere else, but it seems left wing's kind of his favoured position. I just think Maeda for covering defensively is what you want. I
noticed Craig Taylor coming in a lot more. And do you know what he's really good at? I don't know if you've watched it, the wee segment thing he does on the Celtic YouTube channel.
He's a good part.
Him and Alistair Johnson, it was some laugh. But Anthony, same question to yourself for the exact same reasons here. I mean, Palma looks the cliche saying a European winger. Mm-hmm. Looks to drive, looks to link up play, looks to thread the through balls and get involved with goals. Yang, skillful, off the cuff, orthodox. Who would you go for? I think Franny made a great point in terms of Maeda, especially if Taylor is staying with that inverted kind of fullback role, the cover in the European game. I'm 50-50. I'd be happy with either of them, to be honest, because I think they could both offer something different. But where are you sitting at the minute?
I think purely because he started on Saturday, I think it'll be Yang that he goes with, Stephen, because I think Palmer's still perhaps a week or two behind in terms of match fitness. But brilliant option to have off the bench. And obviously in an ideal world it probably would have been Abada that started if he'd been fit, but obviously we know he's going to be out for some considerable time. But I would have no qualms about any of the two of them starting, to be perfectly honest. We know it's going to be a huge game tomorrow night. We know we're the underdogs, especially away from home, but I think any of the two of them are a bit of an unknown quantity because, for us as much as the opposition, because we've not seen them in full flow yet. But I think just the fact, like you say, he'll probably start Maeda on the left just for that constant work rate, getting back and help him out defending as well, because there's no doubt we're going to be under the cosh for quite large spells in the game. So I think in that sense it maybe makes more sense to start with Yang because he's had a bit more game time. But I definitely think Palma will feature at some point.
Yeah, I think the 5-sub rule comes in that you can use your squad more and get them on the pitch and get minutes and legs and that. And moving on to the Feyenoord game, Franny, obviously a wee bit of a dip in between there, talking about finances. Finances is probably going to come up again, but sure, but we'll go with it. There's a few connections, obviously, with ourselves and Feyenoord. I mean, the 1970 European Cup final, which they pipped us to, which was 2-1. And just the wee mentioned the Wim Janssen, obviously, we all miss Big Wim. He's going to be a Celtic icon forever. So, I mean, always in our hearts in terms of stopping the 10. And Henrik Larsson as well. And that was signed the King of Kings for around, what was it, 650 grand or something like that, wasn't it?
600 or 650, aye.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. It's all the makings of like I don't know, sort of derby game. I don't know. That's just a kind of a clash. How are you feeling getting into it?
A wee bit of concern, Stephen. A wee bit concerned. They've been battering teams, haven't they? I think the last 3 games have won. They know
11
5-0,
goals in 2 games.
But I think the game before that, I think they won 5-0 or something. Or 5-1. I think they went 5-1. I think they went 5-0, 5-1, 6-1. So it's no. We've got to have to be tight at the back. But I think it sounds simple, but it's obviously executing it. But I think first 15, 20 minutes, just similar to what we've done at Ibrox, silence the crowd for the first 10 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, just play the game out, don't give away any silly sort of chances, don't give them a chance to score. Obviously, we'll just need to keep it tight, play our way into the game. I think it's one of them you want to, in an ideal world, you've got a home tie, maybe against even PSV or that, so to try and kick off the group. But at the same time, when you look at, not to discredit Feyenoord, when you look at the pot 1 teams, I think if you were picking one, Feyenoord would have been one of the top picks. I don't think there'd be many outside that in the group that you'd go, I would rather avoid. If I'm picking one, Feyenoord's got to probably be high up there, because it's one out of them all you'd probably go, well, I think you might could get a chance here. But again, it's not got to sit and say I know how well the Dutch league is and stuff.
John would.
Well, did you know claim? I think you've claimed the league a couple of times, so didn't you? You
I know a wee bit about it. I know a wee bit about it.
You were the South Korean league, you knew about the South Korean second division.
Qualm, mate. Sure. I'm an international scout.
Aye. Fucking
Frick.
I don't know. But I mean, I can only go off PSV, and they looked decent in spells against Rangers and stuff. But it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting game. I think it's one of the ones you've got to have to just, like I say, try and keep it similar to how the Rangers game played out. Obviously, it'd be great if it finishes 1-0 to us, but that way you just kill the crowd, try and just keep the ball, dictating the pace of the game, slow it down, slow the game right down and stuff, and draw them out, play your 3 or 4 passes and stuff, and bring them out, and then maybe just play one up over the top for Kyle. It's just staying the, like, if I try to sound defeatist, I didn't mean it in that way. Stay in the game, didn't give away a goal in the first 10 minutes, and you're going, here we go. Because I think if you give away an early goal, could be a long night. Just looking at their last 3 games, it looks like they can score. It looks like when they score early, they'll no stop them. They'll keep going.
No, I totally agree. It's a Celtic thing to do. You obviously concede the first 10 minutes and then the game's kind of kaput, doesn't it? But I mean, I'm going to come to you here as well. That obviously their manager, Arne Slot, was linked with the Spurs job. He rejected it. He stayed on. He's been very respectful in the press. The Celtic saying they're obviously the best team in Scotland. We're better than Rangers. They can't kind of gauge the Rangers game against PSV because we're at a different level. I think that's going to rub the salt into their wounds, which is absolutely fantastic in that aspect. And again, just to be mentioned, the likes of winning the European Cup final and the King of Kings as well. It's all the makings of a great game in terms of the connection between the two clubs, the history they both share, the people they've shared. So I mean, the King of Kings win, stopping the 10 for us, and also I'm going to triple attack you here. Alistair Jack has come in. Question. Now, hopefully you know the answer to this, and you're not leading me up the garden path. Who was the last player we bought from them, and not alone? So you can dwell on that while answering what I asked you.
No, I got about it. Obviously, I know we got Henrik. I was going to actually say Borigter, but I think he was actually Ajax, wasn't he?
He was Ajax.
I was actually going to say Højdonk, but he was before Larsson.
We'll need to wait for Alistair. So I can't think off the top of my head, mate. But
didn't comment yet, Alistair. Didn't comment because I can see I'm turning the comments off.
I like to get this. In terms of what you were saying with regards to the connection between the two clubs, it's absolutely. But I mean, you think, obviously Henrik's the one for our generation. I always still think it's crazy that him and Lubo combined cost £1 million. I think that's just, we say our recruitment's not great. We're no bad, let's be honest. But definitely. I mean, back at the start of the summer there. Obviously, it's been the anniversary this year of Celtic stopping Rangers' attempt at 10 in a row, and obviously Vim was in charge. that year, and me and my dad were through at the Glasgow Armadillo, and it was all the players for that team were getting interviewed. Chris Sutton was hosting it, and it was, obviously our assistant manager and former player Murdo McLeod was there that night. I think it was his first public appearance. He's obviously had these troubles to seek health wise, and he got a great ovation. And then Vim's family, remaining family, came out just sort of for a kind of brief chat at the end, and they had their Celtic scarves on, and they joined in the walk on and stuff like that. It was absolutely brilliant. And they said, him and Murdo remained, great friends up until Vim passed, and he's always, obviously he's a Feyenoord's his team naturally, as you would imagine, but he's always had great affection for Celtic, and like you said, if you're only going to be at Celtic one season, you might as well win a championship and sign the best player in the last 30, 40 years, maybe just before King Kenny. What a guy, what a legacy to have, and nobody will be able to ever take that away from him. But I'm looking forward to it. As I say, I think this is actually our first competitive fixture against them since the 1970 European Cup final. And I think you listen, fan looking through the history and stuff, and whenever you hear the players, the great Celtic players for that generation, they almost say that Feyenoord kind of did to them in the final what Celtic had did to Inter, 3 years before. Celtic had done
the one very late on, didn't it?
Was that, sorry?
It was late on, the one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I think as well, obviously, Celtic went 1-0 up in that game, Inter went 1-0 up in Lisbon. So there's a lot of similarities between the two games, but Celtic had two magnificent results against Leeds United in the semi-final, so were regarded at that time as the best in Europe. And although the players don't necessarily say that they thought their name was on the cup after the game at Hampden or anything like that, I think they definitely, perhaps, they were definitely the favourites going into the game, shall we say. And I think it's one of the big regrets that a lot of the players that time, as much as the story of Lisbon for me is the greatest story ever told, but having to do it twice in 3 years, that would have been incredible. Although, having said that, just getting to two finals in 3 years proves that there was no one-offness about Lisbon. That Celtic side was good a side. I think
as well, Anthony, there was some crazy stat we were involved in quarterfinals upwards for like 6 of the 7 years in between that as well, something like that.
There's a really, and I think it runs up until maybe the start of the 2010s, and it shows you like the European. It was a brilliant kind of moving graph. It was one of these Facebook pages and one of these European pages, and it was all the football teams, all their wins in Europe since European football began. And obviously at the start you have Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Benfica, Manchester United. They guys start off, and then Celtic, you just see the crest just appearing, and then for a while it's second and third, but it's always in the top 10, and it kind of tails off, as into the 2010s and the current generation. Just FYI that at no point did the Rangers crest appear, so that was always a wee bit more enjoyable as well. But Celtic in the European Cup, our record is as good and is up there, with any of the greats, certainly in years gone by. And I still think we do what we give a good, at least give a good account of ourselves. I know obviously we've had a couple of humblings for Barcelona and PSG in recent years, but I would say our first forays into the Champions League, even though there was nights we lost, we still gave, you think over to that game where we lost in Bayern Munich, it was a narrow defeat. Even we've had narrow defeats in the new camp as well. So we've always got a puncher's chance going into any of these games, and under no illusion that Feyenoord are the big favourites tomorrow night. Purely, they're at home. Their fans will create an atmosphere, similar to ours. They're a sort of noisy bunch, and they're in great form.
Hey,
but don't start.
But having said that, Celtic winning in Europe isn't as much as a headline grabber as folks seem to think it would be. So, don't be surprised if we overcome the odds again.
Well, again, that answer from Alistair Zach's question, who does Celtic sign from them from Feyenoord, and it wasn't alone, Evander Snow. That's what I was going to say. But Anthony, they come right back to you. They come right back to you. Stephen Ray got it right off the bat. A few other people got it as well. But in terms of, you said, Rod, they're no losing, right? Feyenoord have scored 11 goals in 2 games, conceded 2. must be a very proficient attacking team. Good Dutch kind of essence about them, all that kind of Cruyff stuff, kind of bang into all that kind of thing, which is fantastic kind of style of playing that. Right, let's have a look. Scales, Lagerbielke, and Phillips. Pick 2, drop 1.
Well, I think the fact that I've not read a lot of Brendan's post-match comments for Saturday because I was driving home, and I've not really been back on, to read up on any of it, Stephen. But Phillips went off at half time, and I don't know what was that. I don't know if any of you guys know. Was that through an injury? Was
he
it
rolled his ankle? He rolled his ankle.
Okay, well, in that sense, then do you go with Scales and Lagerbielke just for the fact that there doesn't seem to really be an injury concern? I mean, Phillips didn't do anything really wrong in the first half. I think, to be fair to him, he did try a few ambitious passes out for the back, kind of long diagonals. And, a couple of them didn't quite pull off. But in terms of, he had a kind of almost Christopher Ayer type stride. When he was on the ball, he wanted to get forward, which was good. He looked comfortable in possession. So if he was fit, I probably would play Phillips, to be fair. I think he looks superb. But, you don't want to be throwing in too many guys that, Phillips hasn't played a lot of football. So, again, that match fitness. But also if he's, potentially pick it. The last thing we need at the moment is any more injuries. Obviously, in an ideal world, would be it would be CCV and somebody else. But at the moment, I think, purely for the fact that they're the two most match sharp, I'd go with Scales and Lagerbielke.
Yeah, that's a good defensive partnership. I still think it's crazy, Franny, that we're talking about Liam Scales in the Champions League. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it because it'll cause another massive argument. But we all know what I'm saying. I think we all get it. I think, quite ironically, you were saying Phillips didn't do much wrong, Anthony, which I agree with in essence. But I thought Lagerbielke was probably our best defender on the day when he came on the pitch. I thought he was really good. He strolled through the game. He struggled at Ibrox, but sometimes he needed to be took out to be put back in again. We've seen that before with Abada. We've seen it with Jada before when he was at the club. So that can happen. We've had a confidence issue there. But Phillips could be out. I think Roger said today that they're assessing him. He trained at Parkhead today before they left on the plane to go to Rotterdam. But where would you go with it? Obviously, started with Scales and Phillips. What are you thinking for Feyenoord?
If Phillips is fit, I think you stick with that partnership, Stephen. It's all about building partnerships. Now, like you say, without getting into it, Scales, it's mad that we're talking about Scales in the Champions League, but we are where we are with injuries and stuff. And I show a bit of respect to Scales. The last 2 games, he's played really well, especially that derby match. He played really well. Do I think?
Oh, yeah.
But then equally the game before that, he played absolutely horrendous against St Johnstone. But so he is still that player. Pace would bother me with Scales. That's one thing. I think
There's no pace.
I think that ball over the top can kill him. Equally, it seems to be an issue for Lagerbielke as well. But Scales at the weekend certainly had that ball over the top his cell that helped get Celtic up the park. So that could be a good tactic for us. We might be under pressure a wee bit. That was a fair point. So that could be an option. Obviously, he's naturally left-footed. He'll be more suited to the left centre-back position. I think it's Lagerbielke's favourite position as well. But I think just the way, just on form, considering the game, if it was maybe a domestic game, not to disrespect the league, I would maybe play Lagerbielke just to try and get minutes in his legs to see what he's all about. We know what Scales was all about. Like, I'm not saying we were hunting Scales out of the club, but we all said it was one that needed to go. We just didn't see a future for him. But the transfer window's shut. He's still here. Could he be Brendan Rodgers?
Scales seems like a guy who has the basics down, but the connective tissues between, not so much. Brilliant, Mark. Brilliant.
I know. It could be Brendan Rodgers. He's Ryan Christie, just away and loan for a couple of seasons, then comes back and just turns up. But for me, I think he's in a wee purple patch now. I hope he continues it to the Mora, and then I just don't see. I would pick Scales in that Phillips as Nat Phillips finish, but it worries me that I'm thinking about skills in the Champions League.
It's giving me.
To be honest with you,
Yeah.
credit they got credit where credit's due. He said 2 good games, but come on, it's fucking.
And fine rightly, if we get it doing, we'll be talking about on Friday. We should have signed another top quality centre half. So
I wouldn't argue. Nah, I think that's harsh. I think that's very.
I know.
Harsh.
I get the injuries, but I mean, we're talking about skills here in the Champions League. We're talking about skills.
You've got Carter Vickers. You probably weren't intending to sell Starfelt. He went, but you signed the Rocky straight off the bat, and then you signed Lagerbielke to cover it because we all said CCV and Starfelt were number ones, and we all said we want another guy in there of Starfelt or better, somebody to compete because we didn't think Kobayashi, Scales, Welsh were good enough. Starfelt unfortunately left, but Narovki was coming. Narovki came in. Then you go and get Lagerbielke, which looks like that's bulking up, replacing what you wanted. So essentially, defence were okay. Then Narovki gets injured, and CCV gets injured, and you go out and get Nat Phillips. You can't really just go and get more centre halves.
I know it was more.
I know we like to criticise the board, but you can't be having a go. They went out and got a defender when
they went out and got.
It just so happened that he was injured. The guy to cover injuries is injured.
He came in. He's injured. Madness. But Anthony, let's go right into it here. Score and lineup prediction. How you feeling?
Okay, so yeah, I think it'll Joe Hart will start in goals, obviously. Alistair Johnston, Lagerbielke, Scales and Taylor in a back four. That's a tough one because he brought Hatate on, but it's Hatate, is he going to be match fit? It's a tough one. But then again, you've seen the quality that he brings, so you might think, it's worth it. So I'd say McGregor, obviously, Hatate and O'Reilly, and a front three of Yang on the right, Maeda on the left, and Kyogo up front in the centre. Only Turnbull might play and possibly instead of Hatate, but if Hatate declares himself fit, I would suggest that he would start. And I think let's dream big, Stephen. We've had a good couple of results. Let's say 1-0 to Celtic, and let's get our first ever opening game win in the Champions League. I'm saying 1-0.
I like the thing. Optimistic. We all love a wee bit of optimism on the podcast. You know what, Anthony? What about yourself, Ronnie?
I think the team will be the exact same. I know I said I'd picked Phillips, but I did see the comments as well for Rodgers saying that I think he's I don't think it was touch and go, but essentially Nat Phillips is touch and go. So I think for me that means Lagerbielke will probably start. So I'm much the same team as Anthony. I think Hatate's got to come back in there. But the only change I would make is if, depending on fitness, I would take Phillips in there. And San Fran, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm with San Fran. I think 2-2, a very entertaining 2-2. I'll go with the attitude that I had at the Rangers game. I'll snap your hands off for a draw, and then hope that goes against me and we get the win.
I would love to avoid defeat in the first game because it sets you up. Even if it's 1.3 points, you're kind of
point of any point on the board tomorrow night. Your 2 home games coming up. That would be a great start as well.
It'd be fantastic. And I mean, the midfield, I agree with the team in essence in terms of the back four and the front three. That's fair enough. But I don't know. I can maybe see Bernardo starting tomorrow. Bernardo, McGregor, and O'Reilly. Because if Hatate's not fully match fit, you're not putting Turnbull there. You're not putting Turnbull there.
He's played well, I know Bernardo's just in, but he's playing Turnbull. Come on. Turnbull's had a decent start this season. As much as I'm clamoring to get Hatate in a forum, Turnbull's had a decent start. You can't make a logical...
I'll stick my neck out. I'll say Bernardo's going to start tomorrow. I'll say Bernardo. No, look, the reason why I'm thinking this, and I'll give you my logic behind it.
Because you just want to go, that.
No, mate. No, I'm going to have logic. International scout here, on a mission.
All right.
He played the full 90 minutes in the Portugal under-21 team. He came on for 25 minutes against us. He's fresh. He's match fit. My only concern is, if you put a Tate in the midfield, what if he gasses out after 35, 40 minutes? You need to take that in consideration, right? He hasn't had a full match in a while.
That's fair.
Turnbull for me, right? We got away with it at Ibrox, by the way. He didn't do anything special. That's not beating around the bush. He scored a few goals, couple of them penalty kicks, right? Let's get it right. Speed is the main issue in our midfield. Bernardo can cover the ground. From what I can tell, what I've seen, He can cover the ground. He looks a smooth operator. Now, look, it's an out there shout. I think Bernardo might edge it because if we go in with Turnbull,
I'd actually argue Thiago home instead of Bernardo.
Well, Thiago home could be a shout too, but I'm just saying Turnbull.
Stop being silly.
I hope he does. I'm hoping that, but I'm saying if he's not fully match fit, there's no point risking him in terms of throwing him in for the 45 minutes and then he gets injured, he picks up a tweak again. But look, we'll find out tomorrow night when we're back in the Champions League over in Rotterdam, and that brings us to the end of the podcast. Have you enjoyed this one?
It's been great. It's been great. It's getting me buzzing for tomorrow as well, Stephen. Cannot wait.
Good man. And Anthony, yourself, buddy.
Absolutely, mate. Great to be back on. As I say, it feels like it's been a wee while since I've been on, just we've been off on holiday. But if you're going to come back on, might as well be on the back of a win and then previewing the Champions League as well. So hope everyone, wherever they're watching it tomorrow, enjoys it, and here's hoping for a good result.
100%. And the game will be back Friday at 8 o'clock, our usual time. Hopefully celebrating a great result. But until then, and thanks everyone in the comments, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.